and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that really is more of an extension of one of the other videos that I did not too long ago. Previously I had done a video where I talked about tile placing games that are specific for maps, right? Now, unfortunately, in the video itself, I actually really meant to, but I didn't mention specifically that, hey, I'm talking about maps here. So I went ahead and I talked about, I had Pseudo, I had games like Descent, the D&D games, like all those kinds of things. Whenever you have tiles that make a functional place for pieces to stand on, effectively, and not necessarily relating specifically to the gameplay that's going on. So today, I'm going to do a sort of extension on that, where I'm going to talk about games where you're placing tiles, but the tiles themselves are actually directly related to gameplay, and they allow you to really shift how the game is functioning, what's going on, how many points you're getting, etc., etc., etc. Any and all of that kind of stuff. So, without further ado, I'm going to go right on ahead and get started with my number 5. I've got a game that is really arguably more of a family game, more something that's designed for kids and things like that. The game itself is Loreto. Loreto is actually a surprisingly fun and very strategic game that, again, you can very easily play with kids. I mean, the whole point is that you're getting a bunch of animals and sticking them into a zoo. That's the idea. So it's something that kids can obviously very easily relate to. The thing is that when you're talking about placing the tiles, quote unquote, are actually the animals, and you're trying to put them into different areas so that they cooperate and they get along with one another and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, you have to expand out your zoo. If you don't expand, then you start to lose money, all this kind of stuff. It's actually a lot of fun. It's really, really cool. And there's an expansion / sequel that I think it's Loreto. I'm not certain exactly how to pronounce it, but it's a very similar thing. But the idea is that it's with aquarium animals. So you have like the whales and the fish and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, it's an aquarium. That's the idea. But I personally prefer Loreto. I think that it's a lot more fun. And again, it is really surprisingly strategic, especially in the context of you're trying to place enough animals and the appropriate types of animals to draw tourists in, but at the same time you have to balance that with maintenance. Effectively you're trying to maintain your zoo, and at the same time you're trying not to overcrowd it, because that's going to be detrimental to you as well. So it's a lot of fun, relatively strategic, very, very easy to learn, a ton of fun to play with. If you've got kids, then it's a really great game to try and pick up and have them play. And really, that's the only reason that it's lower on the list than everything else, is simply because it has that relatively simplistic aspect to it, where it is easy enough for kids to play, because that's really what it's designed for. So in the end, if as an adult you might find it not quite enough of a challenge for you, if you're a really hardcore hobbyist game veteran, then it's definitely something to play with your kids, but probably not something that you would bring to like a regular game night type of thing with your other hobbyist gamer friends. But that said, you very well may. I really enjoy it. Again, I personally do not own it, but it really is a really fun game. If you get a chance to, certainly give it a try at least. The expansion / sequel, the Aqua one that Loreto, sorry, it's okay. I don't like it quite as much. The thing is, you can combine the two. I actually have not done that, so I don't know exactly how that is. But either way, Loreto, a really fun little tile placing game where the tiles are the monkeys, effectively, and the cheetahs and the lions and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Cool little game. My number 5. At number 4, I've got a game where the tiles are all about the Benjamins. That's right, the whole point of this game is that you are trying to earn the most money, and the way that you do that, in part, is by tile placement. It is Acquire. Now, for those of you who have seen me talk about Acquire before, you know that I absolutely hate my version of Acquire. I cannot stand this version. I really want the Avalon Hill version. But either way, it's still Acquire. It still works. The whole point of this game is that everybody has a set number of tiles, and you're placing them on a board. After you place 2 tiles adjacent to one another, you have now made a company, and then everybody is able to purchase stock in the company. As a company grows, the stock becomes more expensive, but because it's more expensive, it means that it's going to be worth more. Companies can take over other companies. If your company is taken over, then you can cash in your stock, or you can exchange for the new company, all that kind of stuff. There's actually a surprising amount of strategy in this. And, you know, I was talking about stock all this time, but it's really not a stock trading type of game because it's really solely based on the physical size of the companies. And the really cool thing about this game is there's a surprising amount of strategy in the context of you can hold on to key tiles. You know, like if you have a tile that's going to merge 2 companies, then, you know, maybe you'll make one of the companies a little bit bigger so that you can better control which one is going to actually perform the takeover. You know, stuff like that that you can do. It's really a lot of fun. It's a really good game, and the tile placement, I say tile placement, in this case it's little cardboard tokens that are really flimsy, I might add. But either way, it really is a lot of fun, and it's one of those things where you really have to balance your short and your end game goals, or your short and your long-term goals, because in the short term you really need to have disposable income. You need to be able to purchase stocks, but then at the end of the game, having stock is how you win, because that's where your money is. That's what you need, and you need like the majority shareholder, and then you have the minority shareholder, and they get bonuses at the end and all that kind of stuff. So the thing is, you have to really balance your loose usable capital with, you know, just trying to start out, get your feet wet, try to figure out where you can make a company and all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of fun. I love the idea of the strategic aspect of the tile placements, which is something that you really don't see a great deal. But it really is very vital, and that's something that I love about a lot of these games, where the actual physical location of the tiles is very important. And in this case, very important because you can grow a business, you can shrink a business, you can take them over, all that kind of stuff that I just mentioned. But either way, Acquire, really, really fun game, great time to play, relatively easy to learn, relatively fast to play as well, but overall, my number 4. At number 2, I really have a game that is solely designed as a very pure strategy game. Very purely strategic game that is only playable by 2 people. It is Hive. Now in this case, okay, you can argue, what is a tile? Well, this isn't philosophy class, this is a board gaming video, right? And I count them as tiles. They're little hexes and they look really cool, okay? So the really amazing thing about this game, there's a couple of really great things. First off, extremely fast to learn and to play. Second thing, amazingly strategic. This is essentially a game that you can really easily compare to chess. That's really what it's all about. You have different pieces, you've essentially got different bugs, types of insects that move and behave in different ways. The whole point of the game is that you're trying to surround your opponent's queen, right, with your pieces, and you've got the different pieces that move in different ways, different directions, around, up and down, all sorts of stuff. It's ridiculous. There's also an expansion, I believe it's called The Buzz, because it adds bees and like wasps and hornets and stuff like that. I believe, I'm not certain, don't quote me on that, but I believe it's called The Buzz. But either way, Hive is a really, really fun game, and in this case, again, the tile placement is very strategic, but in this case you also have the ability to move the tiles once they have been placed, and that not only does it add an additional layer of strategy to what's going on, but it also just allows you to respond to additional moves, which makes it a very unique competitive tile placing game, as opposed to you know, something like Soto, which I talked about in my previous video, where you're laying the map tiles. It is very important to keep track of what other players are doing, but in something like this, since it's only a 2-player, then you're even more focused, and in that sense, you can potentially have a much better grasp over exactly what's going on. And it's absolutely incredible. It really is like a more advanced version of chess. Simply because you add in additional dimensions, like there's I think it's the beetle that can literally stack on top of other tiles. You've got ones that literally just loop back around and do all sorts of crazy stuff. It's really amazing, and that coupled with the fact that you don't even start with all of your tiles means that you have innumerable possibilities for how this game is going to go. It's absolutely incredible. I really love Hive. There's also actually a pocket version as well, like a small travel version. Not that this is really big, it's still pretty small, and it actually comes with a little bag that holds all of the things pretty easily. So there's really no reason not to try this. At least give it a test. Take a look at some reviews at the very least for all these games. Do it. Just take a look at some of these. They're really, really fun. But Hive, regardless, is my number 3. At number 2, I have the other game on this list that I unfortunately do not own, but is actually, it's something that was very, 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 very close to being a lot of different games, because they actually utilize the tile placement mechanic in a very interesting way. And the game that I picked is actually Among the Stars. Now, before you get started, yes, they're cards, not tiles. Who cares? Still makes a difference, right? So the idea behind Among the Stars is that you are all trying to build a space station. I apologize. You're trying to build a space station. You start off with like a main reactor, and then you're just building and building and building onto it. You need energy, you need credits, all that kind of stuff, so that you can pay for the new cards, the new tiles, whatever you want to call them, right? Now the thing with both this one, all of the games I'm going to talk about when I talk about this particular number 2, as well as my number 1, are very, very heavily based off of physical relationships between other tiles, like where they're located. Because if you have tiles that are adjacent to one another or within 2 or 3 spaces of one another, then you get bonuses to them as well. And the idea is that it's essentially a points race. You want to get the most number of points at the end of the game, and whoever does wins. That's basically the idea. The thing that I really like about Among the Stars, besides the over the other games I had considered for this, is that it's a lot faster to learn, and it's also a lot faster to play. It typically plays in less than about an hour, and it takes, you know, a matter of like 5 or 10 minutes to learn. The only thing is just like with anything such as, you know, like Race for the Galaxy or something like that, you really need to learn what the different cards means, like what the different symbols mean and all that kind of stuff. Although in Among the Stars, the symbols really aren't that complicated. That said, there are several other games that use this mechanic very, very well. And the ones that I'm immediately thinking of are Suburbia and Viceroy. So with both of those, you have the same kind of idea of you place down a tile, and it's not necessarily only about you place the tile, you get points for that tile. But it's also, if you place this tile next to this other one, you get additional points. If you place this tile next to this other tile, then you might lose points, all of that kind of stuff. And both Viceroy and Suburbia do this, and then of course Among the Stars does. So Viceroy is really fun because you're making the big giant pyramid, and in that case, depending on what level it's at, it also gives you a different bonus, and you get bonuses if you complete little color circles that are on the individual cards, which is really, really cool, and means that you have a lot more strategy with regard to exactly where you're going to place them and when you're going to place them as well. Because, for example, in that one, since it's a pyramid, then you need to have 2 cards on the level below before you can put a card on the top, obviously. It makes sense. It's a pyramid. And then, of course, being able to get only specific bonuses, getting the individual bonuses from a single tier, means that it can change your strategy in that sense as well. For Suburbia, the idea behind this is that you are basically a city planner and you're trying to figure out, you know, where's your park going to go, where is your federal building going to go, etc., etc. And in this case, the way that a lot of it works is not only do you have specific tiles that key off of different colors, so for example, you might have an environmental-based tile that gives you more points if you have parks and larger parks and stuff like that. If you've got a factory, for example, then it can decrease the points in the tiles that surround it. You know, just all sorts of stuff like that. And the thing is that both Viceroy and Suburbia are very similar in that sense to Among the Stars. But I really personally like Among the Stars more. I really like the theme a lot more. I love sci-fi games, and I also love the fact that it's so much easier to learn and very quickly pick up. Viceroy is one that's also relatively easy to pick up, but again, with the different symbolism that it has, it can be very, very confusing. Among the Stars also has an absolutely incredible drafting mechanic. Well, actually, technically, Viceroy sort of does, but not really quite. But Among the Stars has a great drafting mechanic, which adds just another layer of strategy to it. And the other great thing about Among the Stars over the other two is, well, not really over Viceroy necessarily, but is the fact that everything happens simultaneously. Excuse me. In Viceroy, it happens as well, where everybody plays the card at the same time, and then everybody flips it over, sees what happens. Everybody does a betting round in Viceroy, all that. Similarly, in Among the Stars, everybody does the drafting simultaneously. Everybody does the card playing simultaneously, the card placement, etc., etc. In Suburbia, it can tend to drag just a little bit, just depending on how quickly somebody is going, because not everything happens at the same time, and the turn order is actually really important for that. Less important for the other two, though, but I'm personally a bigger fan of Among the Stars, but the other two, Viceroy and Suburbia, definitely other games that you should check out that fit into this same category of in this specific one, this number 2 for this video, the idea of a tile placement that also heavily relates to the physical location relative to other tiles as well. But either way, Among the Stars, overall, my number 2 for this particular video, and number 1 amongst the 3 that I was really debating about, which were the Among the Stars and then Suburbia and Viceroy as well. But without further ado, we will go on to my number 1. At number 1 for this video of tile games that do not relate to some kind of a map, I also have what happens to be the physically largest one of the entire group. The only reason it's the largest is because I got the big collection version of it, but still, it's Galaxy Trucker. Galaxy Trucker is a really, really fun game that actually has a lot of controlled chaos to it. The main idea behind the controlled chaos for this specifically is the idea that during the game, everybody is picking from a giant pile of tiles simultaneously. And the idea is that you take one, you look at it, you see if you want to put it on your ship. If you don't, you put it back and then you get another one. And it can become a huge madhouse very, very quickly. But again, just like Among the Stars, which I just talked about as my number 2, just like that one, with this, you're also talking about things where you have, dang, now I lost my train of thought, where depending on the exact location of the different tiles, and not only that, but the orientation of the tiles as well, will depend on how well your ship works. For example, you can get shields. You can get shields in the back, front, and sides. And it just depends on exactly where you physically place those specific tiles, which will determine where they're actually located. It's really, really cool, and it's absolutely an incredible experience because it really makes it feels almost like oh dang, what's it called? Something like Mad Max or Death Race 2000 or something like that, where you're basically just trying to cobble together something that sort of kind of mostly works-ish, kind of. And that's really the feeling that I get when I play this, because you know, you're just trying to find something that will function correctly and hopefully not blow up, which is you know, obviously not the best thing. But either way, it's a great deal of fun. It's, again, heavily controlled chaos simply because of the way that the tile placement aspect goes. After that, the player order is actually determined by who essentially stops first. If you stop first, then you get to go first, but everybody else has obviously a lot more time to really set up and get everything just right, just the way that they want it. So in that sense, the reason that this is my number one is because I like that interactive aspect with the other players, because you're all doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. You're all reaching into this big pile, trying to find the engine that you need, trying to find that shield that you need, trying to find the you know, the power supply, power source, whatever it is that you need, all that kind of stuff. And it's all happening at once. And then from there, you just see how your giant bucket of bolts does with delivering some goods. And incidentally, that's another thing, you need cargo holds, obviously. But it's really, really cool. It's a great game. Even just the base game is a lot of fun. Obviously, the expansion's not needed by any means, but they're pretty impressive. It's nice because it gives you different options for ship types, like the actual configurations that you're able to use, all sorts of different stuff like that. It's a ton of fun. It's a great game. Just the entirety of the experience is really amazing. It's a little bit longer, but it's not extremely bad, especially once you get everything at least mostly organized. Then it's a lot easier to set up and tear down. But either way, Galaxy Trucker, my favorite tile placement game that is really not related to placing down map tiles on which you have little meeples or whatever it happens to be. So that's it for me, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite tile placing games that have nothing to do with maps whatsoever. Looking at you, Carcassonne. But either way, this is the end of this particular video. Obviously, I mentioned probably like around 10 games total between Amongst the Stars and then the Suburbia, as well as the what was the other one now? Viceroy was the other major one. But there's obviously a ton of different types of games that do this, a ton of different ways of doing it. I mean, how far can you really take tile placement? Would you consider Citadels placing tiles? Because, I mean, they're cards, but Among the Stars are technically cards too. So, how far are you going to go? As always, and as per usual, please put any and all feedback in the comments below. Do you agree with my decisions? Do you disagree with them? Do you have your own personal favorites? Do you think that Among the Stars shouldn't be counted because it's technically cards and not actual physical tiles? You know, like, how far do you go with your definition? What do you think it should be? Or do you really care? Do you prefer games that are really heavily based on the actual gameplay mechanic and things like with Among the Stars, where the actual physical location in and of itself is a strategic aspect to it? All of that kind of stuff. It's all great, all wonderful. I love hearing about it all the time from you guys. But as always, thank you so very much for being here for this one, and I will see you next time. Once again, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this top 5 video for my favorite tile placement games that are not related to some kind of a map. As always, and once again, please put any and all feedback in the comments below, including, most importantly, your favorite games for this category. It is absolutely enormous, so I would love to hear what your guys' experiences are, what your favorite games, and what your least favorite games are as well. Well, with that, as always, I've got several videos and playlists linked up at the top of the page so you can see some of my other work, and if you want to see more of me in the future, click on that big giant subscribe button. Plus, you can follow me on Twitter at DannyCGamingSci to see when I post new videos and start streaming games. But with that, thanks so very much again, and I'll see you next time.